Hey everybody, welcome to another Visual Basic programming tutorial, and in this episode we're going to be looking at how to make a random string generator in terms of adding symbols, numbers, characters and all that type of stuff. Last episode we just did numbers because that's easier, because you can just literally use a random number generator and you can just stick the random number generator's numbers that it's created and you can just add them all together and you can output a string. This isn't too much more complicated, but it does involve strings and searching inside of strings for indexes and stuff like that. It's not massively difficult, as I said. So this is basically an improved version of the last time's video, and this one will create random strings of any of these basically. Now I'll just show you, and also I've worked out why this has to be 1. It's because these do start from 1. So if I type 1 into there and then I press start just to show that this works, it'll ask me for the length. I'll put 5 and it will generate a random number, well, not a random number, a random string of characters and numbers, and that's obviously 5 long. So if I typed in like 56, it will create this, which is supposedly 56 characters long. It should be. And as you can see, they're completely random combinations of, at the moment it's just lowercase letters and numbers, but you can basically add anything into this. This is where you get all your stuff from. So if you wanted to have like at symbols in there, you can have that. If you want to have plus, equals, minus, you know, you can have all of these. You can have uppercase letters if you want, so we'll leave them in there as well. So basically what I'm going to go through here is, I'm not going to explain everything because last tutorial was quite long because I was explaining everything that's going on here. The only thing that's different is, instead of having just a random number doing all of everything, we actually have a string, which is obviously what I've just been typing into, and this is where you're going to get all of your characters from. Now I'm calling that array characters because it's not really an array, it's just an array of characters, so to speak. And I'm calling that a string, and that's equal to everything that's in here, minus these. I'm declaring the random class, same as last time. I'm declaring the length of this. This is, actually no, sorry, that's not the length of this, silly me. That's the array characters dot length. That's exactly the same as last time. That just asks for the length of the string you want to create, which I've just shown you a minute ago. Index is basically the random number. In fact, I'll explain how this system, this code works. What happens is it asks for the length, and then it runs a for loop from 1 to the length of the string that you want to create, which you've already typed in, and it's assigned to this variable here, which is here. And then what it will do is it will assign a value to the index. Now the index I'm using here is going to be, it's just a variable, it's nothing specific or anything, it's just what I'm calling it as an index, which is what you will generally describe as like a position inside of a string. Now what we're doing here is the value of index, every single loop, this is going to change, is equal to the random.next, which is this random number we've created. Well, it's created here. This is the random class we've generated, and it's equal to 0. And then the array, the random number boundaries that it's going to create off between the number of 0 and the length of this. Now, the reason why we're doing it for the length of this is because what we want to do is create a random number that is between 0 and, I haven't actually checked what the length of this is. We can find out actually if we just literally type in console.writeLine and then that. It'll tell you the length of it, but I haven't counted it. You don't need to count it. Because you can add as much as you can add, loads of stuff into there, and it will just keep adding all of that. You'll get repeated characters, but that's all it's doing. Ideally, you want them all to be different so you can have as much like differentiation as possible. So what this will do is it will create a random number between 0 and the length of this, so that the index is going to equal to a random number. So if the index that it created was equal to 0, the output of index or the random character would be equal to 1, because random character here is equal to this array characters index. So it's searching inside of array characters for the random number, and whatever number is generated from here will go straight into here, and it will search array characters for whatever position is the value of index. For example, if it was 0, it would be 1. So generated string it basically does exactly what happened last time, and that is that it assigns a value to generated string. It concatenates the at first, obviously it's nothing to it, it's a completely blank string, it's empty, which all variables are until you've added stuff to them, obviously. And it will add to the empty string, it will add the random character that it is gathered from the random index that we've got from array characters. Now, if that makes sense to you, then that's basically what's going on here. Everything else is the same, and this just outputs the string that you've made, and console.read just to stop it from closing after it's done it. So we won't be going through this. I won't be typing this out for you because there's not much need to, really. It does make the video very long, but this is basically what you would do. In fact, no, let's type it in. Let's do it. So what we're going to do is we're going to dim the characters, and I'm going to call these different names just to make it look like it's different to that one. So this is just the normal characters that we're going to declare, and we're going to equal that to, let's just call it ABC. Heaven's sake, sorry, A B C D E F G H I J K L M N P. Probably missed loads up there. Yeah, I missed out an S. Sorry. It's a pain typing in the alphabet because it's not in order. And we'll add numbers. So we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, we've got 0 in there as well. So that's the. Oh, sorry, I've got to add the speech things in there because it is a string. It's all of that, so that's an entire string. So if I literally typed in console.writeline characters, it will just output that, which is obviously not what we want. So if I now dim the random, and that'll be as a new random class, and now what we're going to do is we're going to dim length, which we're going to assign to later, and I'm going to put this in in its own integer dim. And we're also going to dim the index, which is going to be used to find the position inside of the character string. And we're also going to dim the generated character, the whole string, and that'll be as a string, not as a string in VB, but as a string, if you know what I mean. Don't say as a string, you just say as string. Oh, done something wrong. Sorry, press F5, I think. There we go. So as string, and then we also want to dim the random character. So we're going to, and this is what it's going to add to every single time we run the for loop. So we're going to do random, and we're going to call this random char because it's really different, you know. And we're just going to use that as a string. I'm not going to put it as a char because then you start getting into problems where you have to convert it from a char to a string. And I don't actually know how well VB handles that, because if I start sticking chars together, I don't think it likes it. So just keep it all as strings. Strings can be one single character, so just keep it all as strings, and also it can be numbers as well. However, the integer has to be a length because it actually has to read that, and it has to use the length in the for loop. So we can't stick length as a string because it has to be an integer. It has to know how much to do. Unless you convert it, you could, if you stick it as a string, not that you would, you can literally just convert it to an integer if you really wanted to. There's no need to do that though. So console.writeline, and this is going to ask. This is going to ask for the, oh god, not that. It's going to ask for the length, and I'm going to assign the value of length to that. I cannot type. Console.read line, because we want to create a new line, and that's basically that part done. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create a for loop, and it's going to be from I equals 1 to the length of what we want to make. It will stick next in for there for you, and that will just do it as many times as you've stuck into here, which will create however many times this for loop runs will be the length of the string, because every single time this for loop runs, one extra character is added on to the generated string. So it all totals out to length of the string equals how many times the for loop runs, which is perfect. Makes everything easier. Right, now if we do index, because what we want to do is we want to take, we want to use index, and we want to create a random. Well, we've already created a random. We want to use random, and we want to create that random to be equal to from 0 to the length of characters. So we're going to do characters dot. Oh God, not today. Characters dot length. It's quite hard typing when you're speaking at the same time. I'm not going to lie. So that basically gets the length, which won't change. I mean, what you could do if you really wanted to, especially if you get like longer programs, if you wanted to use this somewhere else in a program, you could either repeat this line of code, or what you could do is make it easier and just make it a global variable, or if you're using it in this sub procedure, you can just stick it here, and you can literally just do length of length of array, let's just call it that, equals characters dot length, and you can just use that all the time now without having to type in this. You can literally just put length of, and let's use this just for a bit of variety. So now what we're going to do is we've created a random index every single time the for loop runs, and now we're going to, oh dear, sorry about that, that was very loud. Now we're going to create a random. I'm trying to be rather quick here so that it's not too long. I think the last video was 18 minutes long, which is not ideal, but okay. Random character is going to be equal to the random index that we've found on the array of characters. So we're going to do characters, and then we're going to do brackets index, and I've already explained what that does. That will basically random characters. What have I done? It's random char. That's why. So what that will do is every single time the for loop runs, it will assign, and like it will change the value of random char. Obviously, at the first run of the for loop, it will be equal to nothing, just like the generated string will equal to nothing, and the index. And it will basically assign the value of random char equal to this, an index that's randomly created on here, and obviously the index is equal to the position of any one of these, which is obviously randomly generated, and that's what we do here. And that's all you have to do. If you want to find something inside of a string equal to a number, you can literally just type in the name of the string, and then you do brackets, and then you do the number, and obviously for our case it's the index, which is already an integer anyway, so we can just call it index. Now what we want to do is we want to create the generated string, and it's obviously generated string, and then we're going to do concatenate string.concat, and then we're going to take the empty generated string that we have on the first time, and then we're going to add the random character each time the for loop runs, and that is the end of that for loop. And it's happened again. Sorry about that, it's very loud for me, I hope it's not for you. And now we're just going to literally output the generated string, and that's all you have to do. And console.read, and that will basically do it. Now why is it running about that? Because it should be random char. If it's going to do what it did last time and not work, we'll run it from here, but it should just work. There we go, length of the string. So if you want to create a length of the string, let's make it equal to 3 so we can count. That should be equal to 3, and obviously that is 3 characters there. We've got a number, and then we have 2 letters. Now let's make it equal to 7, and that is obviously equal to 7 characters long. So that is how you make a random string generator in Visual Basic, and if you so wish, you can also translate this onto C#, Java, or any programming language that you wish that can support all of these functions, and you can use it in game engines such as Unity. Unity is probably the most freely available one that's easiest to understand out of all of them, at least in my opinion it is. And you can, for example, a use for this could be creating a let's just, for example, maybe like in Minecraft, you can create a. In fact, this would probably be for the random. Well, actually, no. We can call it. We can use it in this actually. If you go to like a chest in Minecraft, you can actually find random items in there. And what you could do is you could assign each of the random like items, such as like a block of like a thing of redstone, and you could maybe say that, look, the redstone is equal to A. And every single time the world is generated, or a world is generated, or the chunk is generated, when it creates the chest, you can create a random. You can use this similar idea to this, and whatever string it generates out of it, if there is a letter A in there, it will create redstone, and it will stick redstone in the chest. And that's just an example of using it. That is obviously a very subtle way of using a random string generator. There's also very many other ways to do it, but that's basically the one I thought at the top of my head. So yeah, thanks very much for watching, and I will see you in the next tutorial.